Hey, you guys, Ras out here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining in the Night Owl podcast. You know what? It's been quite the journey. If I look back, it's so much information, so many different perspectives, so many scenarios, and so many feelings. And I've got to say, it's been quite exciting to kind of go through it all. And I do sometimes worry that, it doesn't quite hit the mark, but I've been happy for the most part, just happy to share with you the insights that I'm getting as I get them. And a lot of times it's because something I once believed in was either contradicted or questioned or challenged a little bit. And I had to kind of take a step back and think about it and wonder if this was a possibility, what would that change for me? Is that going to, realign my entire life? Is it going to mean that I'm wrong? Does it mean that, that belief could exist at the same time that my beliefs exist? Should I reevaluate and maybe adjust my belief system? And that's happened so many times in my life that I think it's worth it to kind of, put it out there and let people know, hey, maybe you grew up with this one sense of religion and suddenly there's a spirituality concept that came up, and you know what, it makes you feel better, it makes you feel safer or more protected or more like you have permission to be as you are, so you don't have to like restrict yourself with the rules that you've been told exist, right? So these are the reasons that I even come up with the content that I do, because I like the idea that there are multiple theories out there and there are multiple versions of a belief system out there, because that means that I can adjust to something that makes me feel better, and then I feel less like I'm fighting my life rather and are kind of like living my life on a day-to-day basis. So here goes. I saw this quote, and of course it's got to be Jim Carrey, right? It's a Twitter quote from his that says, "Cheers to all the people who can change their minds when presented with information that contradicts their beliefs." Now, I do love that. I do believe in that. I try really hard to stay flexible and fluid enough to be able to accept other people's ideas and worldviews, because mine is only one tiny sliver, like this one tiny angle that I'm looking at the world from. And of course, there's so many of us with different walks of life, from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences. So we're going to see different areas of this. I've had so many people along the way. I had a really good friend of mine once, because she's been through a tumultuous childhood and had to be everything and anything for her mom, was very, very worried that because I'm a single mom, I should be very cognizant of the fact that my daughter will absorb everything that I'm doing and will be highly influenced by the way that I live my life. So the fact that I don't have a maid, the fact that I'm living by myself without a husband, without a boyfriend or any of those things, that I am on my phone a lot because all of my business is on my phone, they're going to be very influenced by the things that they see rather than things that I'm teaching them. So she had me really question, what am I doing? Am I being the most healthy, effective example for my daughter? Am I leaning on her too much? Do I depend on her emotionally? In that, it's just the two of us. Do we create a safe and secure attachment between the two of us, or am I asking too much of her as a child? So a lot of times I pride myself on the fact that this child can move around with adults, can move around with kids. She's very, very socially aware. She's very emotionally intelligent. But she, my friend was like, the way she spoke to me, because of her experience, she was worried. She wasn't saying that I was doing anything wrong, but she was like, just keep this in the back of your mind. And she was worried that I might be influencing her or depending on her too much, because that's what she experienced. And I get that. That's totally cool. I understand. So I needed to check my ego at the door, and I needed to listen to what she was saying, because she was saying it from a place where I've lived through this before, and it was really hard for me to get out from under my mom. I don't think you're doing this, but just, in little ways, just make sure she's still a child. She still gets to grow up at the pace that everyone else grows up, rather than forcing her to become an adult because you're an adult, there's no other kids in the house, and she doesn't have space to be a kid. So that's something I had to consider. I had to kind of allow for that belief to also exist, and then to check myself and make sure that I had room for that as well. I had another young lady who came to me and was like, you need to think about the way that you speak to people. She comes from a very simple family life, and they don't really talk about feelings. They don't really ask each other how the other person is until the person comes to them and says, hey, I'm in trouble, or I don't feel good, or something's going on, right? So they kind of ignore all the telltale signs because they don't want to invade privacy, and I get that. But I'm one of those people that if you are affected enough for it to show on your face and to show in your body language, I'm going to ask. And it's up to you whether you want me to, to step in further if you want to allow me past your defenses and I can help you and talk to you. Or if you don't want to, it's very, very simple. So if I say, hey, you doing okay? You're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to leave it at that. Or, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm having kind of a little bit of a tough time at the moment. If you say that, then that invites me to actually ask more questions. So those are the kinds of things, that's where I come from. But when I was, confronted by her and then her father later, and they told me, you know what, you don't know how to speak to people, you need to let them be. I was like, okay, so that tells me their boundaries, the way that they see the world. This is not something that you just anyhow ask somebody. You need to be at a certain level of comfort with them first before you can ask the, hey, are you doing okay situation or question, so that they feel safe enough to answer. So it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of adjusting, it's a lot of understanding that, people have different expectations of society. People have different ideas of what communication is. People have different ideas of how to approach, a person at a party, a person at a gathering, etiquette, social norms, like all of that. It's so different from house to house, from person to person, because of their varied experiences, their culture in their family, how they were raised, how they went to school, like all of the influences along the way really challenge or create this identity that they've adopted that they feel safe in. So anybody who is not of that same, what is that, way of showing etiquette kind of challenges who they are. So I'm of the perspective that, if you show me in so many words or actions that you're not comfortable with what I'm doing, I'm just going to back off. I'm going to let you be. I'm not going to push any harder. I'm not going to threaten you. I'm not going to tell you, hey, it's my way or the highway. It's nothing like that at all. Which also means when you come to me and you tell me, hey, I don't like this, or I'm not comfortable with that, I'm going to see if I can adjust, or if there's something else I could or should consider, so that I can be the best version of myself. I remember when I was growing up in college, I had a chance to hang out with a bunch of different people. And I had a chance to go hang out with a friend of mine who lived in Virginia Beach, and she was Christian. Gosh, don't even ask me what type of Christian I can't remember, but I remember going to church with her, and I remember listening to the pastor and the way they did things, and the way they sang, the way they responded with hymns, and the way they took in the kind of beliefs that the pastor was talking about. I remember feeling like, what, this kind of hurts me a little bit, the way they're speaking. It feels like, either I'm good or bad. There is no in between, and there is no, what is that word I'm looking for? There's no forgiveness, really. You walk the straight and narrow or else. And I felt bad when I came out of it, because I am not any of the things that they spoke of. And I felt like, even though I am ecumenical, I was raised Hindu, but I do believe in all the religions. I believe in God as a source of love. And that's basically all he taught, was to love your neighbor, right? I felt like I was still not good enough to stand in that church. And so when I left, I understood that, okay, some people will feel this way, and that's okay. As long as I don't force my beliefs onto them, I understand that this can also coexist in our universe, and I will just be as I am, as flexible and fluid as possible, so I don't offend anyone. But I also keep to myself that I stay the course, these beliefs that I do have that make me feel big and possible and expansive and useful, and have the ability to serve in some capacity. Those are the things that I hold on to, because they make me feel good. So I know very, very clearly that everyone has their own belief system, and it helps them feel good about where they are in their lives. But I also know some people are raised with a belief system that they're fighting because it doesn't fit them, and they don't know if they're allowed to drop that belief system and adopt something new or not. And even if they knew that they could, they don't even know where to start. What can I learn to believe in? What can I adjust my beliefs to be, so that I fit in to this code that's supposed to be my life, how I'm supposed to live from now on, how I'm supposed to move forward, whether I'm debating about whether or not I am straight or gay, whether I'm debating about, how I want to dress versus how I'm allowed to dress, any of those things, what I want to study versus what I'm supposed to study. Can I study because I'm female, or am I expected to be a housewife for the rest of my life as soon as I pass from my father's hands to my husband's hands? So all of those things kind of come into context when you're talking about this quote that Jim Carrey says, cheers to all the people who can change their minds when presented with information that contradicts their beliefs. Now, a lot of people, they really do feel threatened when someone says something that is even remotely on the edge of what their belief is. I know this because I hear it from comedians all the time. They presented a joke that they thought was very well constructed and somehow it offended somebody in the audience, and it's because they feel like this is the only way to be, and you cannot tell me that it doesn't exist this way. You cannot tell me that other people, exist a different way or believe something different and that it's still okay, because if this is my rule for life, this is the only way that I can be right and can be good and can be, on good terms with the Lord, and I'm going to heaven, like all of those things, this is the pathway, right? And if you present me with a different pathway, it makes me feel like, well, all this time, what have I been doing? I must be wrong then. And I don't like that idea. So when he's talking about, being able to change your mind, I like that concept because it means that I can accept that you live your way. And I can accept that I live my way, and both ways are okay because I'm not forcing mine on you, you're not forcing yours on me, and we can live side by side and still be happy. I don't feel so restricted by my faith or by my lifestyle choices that if you were to be, let's say I was vegan and you eat meat near me, or we're at a family gathering and you're a friend of mine and you eat meat and I'm vegan, that we suddenly can't be friends anymore because you don't believe what I believe. You don't do as I do. That doesn't make you good enough to be a friend. And I don't like that concept. That hurts me a little bit. It's very exclusive then. I love it when people talk about, rights for humans, all kinds of humans. And right now, maybe it's Black Lives Matter, and maybe it's LGBTQ rights, and maybe it's, the right to educate women. Whatever the rights may be, I don't ever want to be part of a community where only one way exists. If I'm saying brown lives, it's only for brown lives. I don't want to be excluding anybody else of a different color. I don't want to be excluding anybody else from a different background. If I'm saying that, Buddhism is the best because it's so peaceful, I'm not saying that nothing else could be peaceful. I'm saying for me, I find that this works for me, and I feel like, this makes me feel closer to God because it aligns with who I naturally am. But I don't want to force that on anybody else either. So I really appreciate it when people can give perspective without trying to convince that this is the only way. This is the problem I had with, learning about the Crusades when I was, in history class. The fact that people went out to explore different lands, and rather than absorb what the others or the natives had to teach them, they were convinced that they were heathens and they were not civilized, and you had to change to be like me in order for me to respect you. And I don't like that. A lot of times we hear about, hey, how are you? My name is such and such. What do you do for a living? That question makes me nervous because if I say life coach, suddenly they decide, okay, well, you're not good enough to be respected. But then you have people like Tony Robbins and Maston Kipps who are technically life coaches, and they're so well respected. And it doesn't mean that they have a master's or a PhD or they did, scientific research to prove that their theories work. They are just effective communicators, and they know how to help people unlock the blocks in their path. So anything that feels exclusive to me, where you're trying to judge me based on how much respect you think you need to give me, or you judge me based on my ability to accept your way of thinking or not, to adopt to who you are or not, that makes me nervous. So I like being flexible. I like being fluid. I'm happy to share my perspectives with you, but I learned a long time ago, as a life coach, as a therapist, as a confidant, as a mentor, I can tell you what I feel. I can give you another possibility. I can brainstorm with you for all the possible solutions that are out there that might be able to help you solve your problem. But push come to shove, you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to decide what works for you. And it's not to say that I told you so. It's not like that at all. It's like, hey, these are options A, B, and C. Which one works best for you? And whatever you decide, I'm still here for you. I will help you work through the next phase of this problem-solving situation. But you have to choose, and you have to be good with whatever it is you choose. So when you're presented with new possibilities, when you're presented with new ideas, I would love if you're capable of accepting that there is a new possibility, a new, perspective, and understand that you don't have to adopt it just because it exists, but acknowledge that it's there and let it be wherever it is if it's not something that you get totally excited about. If you get excited about it, find a way to integrate it into your life. And if not, that's okay too. But whatever it is, you do this for you. You accept things as you are ready. You do things that make you feel strong and empowered and capable of doing the things that you want to do in the first place. And for that, I know it takes a lot of work. I know you might need some guidance. And if you ever feel like you need someone's helping hand or someone to help you, navigate some of these things when it comes to upgrading your belief systems, please know I'm around. This is what I'm here for. So if you have any questions or concerns, please drop them in the comments below. But in the meantime, try your best to acknowledge that there are different walks of life. There are different paths to follow. There are so many different ways that life could pan out, because it is a choose your own adventure. There are different choices at every twist and turn. And what you choose doesn't necessarily mean it's right or wrong. It's just what you chose at the time. And that's that. I hope this helps you guys. I'll catch you again soon. Bye.